Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and we are so pleased to have Benoit Vincent, therapist for Palomar Family Counseling Service, on our show. We had Benoit's very, very cool colleague, Julie Christensen, on a few weeks ago, just telling about some great stuff about mental health. How you doing there, Benoit?
I'm doing great, thanks.
How long you been with the group?
5 years now.
5 years now? Okay. Mm-hmm. And joined by my wonderful co-host, Kristen Fogel. She is the executive director of San Diego Writers, Inc., going to be celebrating their 20th anniversary next year. And Kristen, you're going to love this session here. It's talking about mental health, how important it is in this day and age. And what was interesting is once we had Julie on, okay, what has happened, in Israel, what has happened in, back east in Maine had not happened yet. And all that does is just exasperate what's going on. So I'm going to start off right there and say, man, you guys have to deal with all this stuff, do you not?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we hear that every day.
So how does one get wrapped around, and then we'll get to some of the questions you've written on your questionnaire, but do people come in and just life in general, when they hear these unbelievable events, whether they're halfway around the world or whether they're 3,000 miles away, it impacts them here in San Diego, does it not?
Oh, it does, of course. They worry.
That's right. So how do you deal with that? What do you talk to them about? What do you tell them? And I know everybody's got a different situation and story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, typically, you have a lot of anxiety that is provoked by those events. And you worry for people abroad. That's the first thing, and you feel hopeless because what can you do for them?
Right.
And those are the worry we hear first, and then of course they wonder if anything like that could happen to them close by, and what it would look like, what it would feel like.
Well, I remember Julie gave some great advice, and you will too. And please jump in on this, Kristen, as well. On controlling what you can control, right? Is such a big part of that, correct? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. It's so difficult to accept that there are parts of life that there is nothing we can do about it. We can be witness and feel for, think about it, and be connected in that way. But to really act. Sometimes we're limited in our relationships. We see that at home, some difficulties with partners, children, friends, and then we're really limited, and we have to accept those limitations.
Kristen?
Yeah, absolutely. Take us back just for a second so that we can understand the context. So you're with Palomar Family Counseling Service. Can you talk a little bit about their or your mission?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. The mission is actually to support and strengthen the children, the adults, the families, and the schools and the communities. And we do that mainly in North County of San Diego. Yeah, and we have 3 offices, one in Escondido, one in Fallbrook, one in Vista. But our therapists actually were quite a few people.
Yeah, there's 80 I saw in there. I circled that. I said, is that a typo? Or there's a lot of you.
That's right. Yeah, so there are 88 employees, and 70% of those employees, which is about 60 plus people, are actually therapists, clinical or registered therapist. And so what they do is you could say, you need big buildings for all these people. So what's really unique about Palomar Family Counseling Service is we are going out the buildings.
Right.
So we just don't see people in those 3 centers. We go in schools. We go in 55 schools in those counties.
Wow. Okay. I thought that you were going to talk about like telehealth and all of that now because that's so popular.
That's right.
Half the therapists I've met, they don't see patients in-house anymore. But talk about your work going into schools. That's fascinating.
Yeah, so that, I think that's one of the unique points of these organizations, which is they have relationships, long-term relationships, actually, with the school districts of the North Counties, cities, and as a result of that, they are providing services within the school. So imagine most schools, they have one psychologist or one counselor, but they may have like 40, 50, 100 children who have needs. And so how do you service that? So one of the ways the school districts have found is to say, let's hire Palomar Family Counseling Services, counselors, and then we bring them temporarily into our schools. And so you could go 1 day a week, 2 days a week, depending on the schools. And then we are seeing children on site.
Wow. So then how is that staffed? Is it like Drew talked about, there are things going on in the world, and so we need more staffing? Does it come from, someone at the school saying we have 6 children that need some extra support? How does that kind of work?
Yeah. So there are counselors in schools normally and school psychologists. So they intervene with children. But where we start to play a role is when they identify children who have needs to longer and consistent support. So we need this child to be seen for 10, 12 weeks, for example. So now we intervene. And so in addition to the spot intervention that typically counselor can provide, or they do classroom interventions as well, we do a typical clinical work, which is we're going to see the child like every week, week after week for 2, 3, 4 months if it's needed. And then we support them to get back to a position where they can academically perform again, because that's what, in the way, when they are emotionally disturbed, it's in a way of them doing the schoolwork.
Yeah, that's a disruptor for sure. And so I assume also that this is low or no cost to families, I would assume?
So that's the beauty of actually that intervention. Exactly. It's first, the parents don't have to select a therapist because we're already trained to work with children. So they don't have to do that at work. The second thing is they don't have to drive anywhere. It's happening in the school. And third, what's happening is it's paid, it's free. It's paid by the school district the same way as the school district pays for the teachers, when you think about it, for speech therapy, for other type of intervention that the school already provides. So it's an additional support.
That's huge. Drew, I don't know if you've ever seen a therapist, but it's not cheap. Sometimes I'll be struggling with something and I'll be like, you know what? I'm just going to take the $150 and take myself out to dinner or something. I know it's beneficial, but I mean, cost is a huge, everything that you talked about is a huge barrier, but that's incredible.
Well, and you're spot on. No, I've not, but you know what? Certainly they, to say the least, they play such an important role. And it is, like anything in life, cost is a factor. And when people discount mental health as not being as important as a physical injury, of course, they're way off base on that. Mental health is so critical. All I have to do is turn around and look at the crisis we've been in for many, many years in this country. And thanks to Benoit and Julie and those folks, they really are working on it. But the sad thing is, to your point, there are many people in this world they don't have the money to see a doctor, so they let something fester, and the next thing you know, they're really in bad physical shape.
Yep.
And the
same with mental health.
Same thing with mental. If it's something that was addressed maybe early and gave some tools on that. So, talk a little bit about that as well. We're chatting with Benoit Vincent. He's the therapist for the Palomar Family Counseling Service. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast. We're now in our 17th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union and these beautiful Mission Fed studios here in Scripps Ranch, and Mission Fed and continuing to do great things in our region for more than 60 years. So, Benoit, part of it, do you give tools for people? I think Julie and I were chatting about this here's your issue, whatever you're dealing with. I know everybody's individual, everybody's different, but here's some tools you might want to use to help you work your way through some of this mental stress.
Yeah. So I'd like to touch on, just if you don't mind, the cost that you just mentioned.
Please.
Yeah. Just to say one more word about that. Of course, as you said, $150 when you have access to a therapist. But in San Diego, there are about 17,000 of us.
Wow.
Okay. And we need 25,000 today. And in 5 years from now, 2027, we're going to need 27. So we already have a gap today of about 8,000 people,
Right.
and we will have a gap of 10,000 people. There's 7,000 who are going to retire, which means that in the next 5 years, we need 17,000 mental health workers in the San Diego. So the reason why I'm mentioning those numbers is to say there are not enough of us. So forget for a second the cost.
Right.
You cannot even have a therapist.
You can't even see a therapist, right?
And that's the problem I see in those schools. When we're done working for a while with a child, most parents, I say, you know what, he needs a little more because the work we've done helped him so much, but he needs maybe additional work. And to get to that additional work, I hear so many parents saying, I cannot get an appointment with a therapist. Oh, it took me 6 months on a waiting list. Or I had a therapist for 2 weeks, and you know what? It changed organization, so I need to. So there's disruption. So the chaos is reproduced for the child by the services that is either non-provided or that is not provided to the child. So what I'm trying to say is the cost is an issue, but the no service
is a large, absolutely
is as big as the cost.
Right. You know, and so we've talked about shortages in different areas. That's the first time I've heard that. I mean, those are monster numbers that you're describing. Is that true in all major metros? Is that about the right number? Obviously, depending on the size of the city. Is LA short of therapists? Is New York? Is Houston? Is every place?
I'm not sure that I can speak for the whole United States, but I do remember during COVID having Los Angeles County telling that we're going to hire 20,000 therapists. I mean, the numbers are the magnitude of what I just said on San Diego. It's not 1,000, a few. No, we're talking about tens of thousands of people that are needed to service the growing issue that we see.
You know, we come back from break. I want to get back to that question. But thank you for clarifying that. I didn't realize that. I'm not sure if you did or not about the shortage. That is huge. Let's talk a little bit about some of the skill sets in this. Definitely, I know this is of interest to Kristen. She's got a young child as well. Social media and the influence of that on kids. We'd love to get your feedback on how you control that with your.
Oh yeah,
son.
I got some thoughts.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you do. And you're a writing expert, for God's sake, and that aspect of it. And then talk about the therapeutic relationship. We really need to understand how this stuff works. And we always spend some time at the rest of the show, Benoit, to talk about what we can do to support your efforts when we return with Benoit Vincent. He is the therapist at Palomar Family Counseling Service. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel of San Diego Writers, Inc. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast. Now in our 17th year, we are brought to you by a Mission Fed Credit Union and these Mission Fed studios in Scripps Ranch, and Mission Fed continuing to do great things in our region for more than 60 years. We are chatting with Benoit Vincent, therapist for the Palomar Family Counseling Service, joined As always, I can start saying that now.
I love that.
As always by my co-host, Kristen Fogel. She's the executive director of San Diego Writers, Inc. Right before break, we were talking about some of the skills and the tools. And obviously, we can spend 5 hours talking about that. But when you meet with the parents and or the kids or both, are you giving them tools of how they can cope on their own?
Oh, yeah. Let me share with you the first tool that I talk to parents about. Play 20 minutes per day and conditionally with your children. Don't watch TV. Don't look at your phone. Just play. Look at them in the eyes. Why do I say that? Is because the play is the language of the child, which is when the child speaks, it's in playing. So if you do not play with your child, it means that you do not speak to your child. A lot of parents say, I do speak to them. I say, brush your teeth, go get dressed, clean your room. This is not speaking to the child. This is not emotionally registering in the mind of a child to grow.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have lots of thoughts about that. My child attends a Waldorf-based school where play is very, very important, as is lack of exposure to things like social media, the internet, until they have literacy around that somewhere in like the 5th grade or so, as they start to understand everything that is on the internet before we open up all of that big can of worms. But can you speak to social media influence on children? I mean, we know it's bad. Can you speak to a little bit more of that?
Right. Sure. Yeah, I think it's one of those things we need also a big tip for the parents, as you just mentioned. But let's start with just painting the picture. You know, when I was young, my parents, to their great displeasure, I listened to rock and roll. You know, I mean, they were listening to Frank Sinatra. I was listening to Joe Cooker. So that was the painful. But that didn't hurt anybody. Maybe their ears, but that's it. My children, that was video games. But when you come to this generation, which is only 10, 15 years ago, because, you know, social media and telephones are only 15 years old. And so what happened to this generation is they start to change their lives. And when I say their lives, I mean, they don't meet as many people, real people. They don't go out. How many times I see children on Monday. I say, how was your weekend? What did you do? I stay home. I play video game. I watch YouTube. And I say, did you go out? No, you didn't go out for 2 days. No, I stayed inside. So they don't go outside, don't meet people, and spend their time on the screen. And I say, how long do you spend on the screen? 8, 10 hours. And the worst part is when I work with middle schoolers. Why are you so yawling this morning in session? Oh, because I stopped playing my video game at 2:00 in the morning.
Wow.
So we affect the sleep, the time outside, and the relationship with people. All of that, of course, leading to self-harm, depression, anxiety, a lot of mental health issues. So not only there's this quantity that I just described, but it's the quality of social media. What are we training people to do? Something fast and quick. I've seen people browsing 100 pictures within a few minutes. So we're treating people, the way we relate, our way to interact with other people is quick. And there's another aspect, it's exciting every minute.
Right.
I'm sorry when I'm with a real person for 10 minutes telling me how the flat tire they had to solve this morning, and I have to listen to the story for 10 minutes. It's not exciting like watching 100 pictures. So it's not the real life of human beings. It's totally distorted. So that sets you up for real disappointment in human relationship if it's not as exciting as browsing through your social medias.
Yeah.
So I have a tip. I said control it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, first of all, I mean, I could talk about this subject for about 5 hours. And this is fantastic stuff. And definitely want to talk to David and make sure you and Julie come back on, because we're just touching the surface on this. Is there a place on your website? These are just great tips. And, obviously for folks like you, it's, but the beauty of a therapist and a good therapist like you and Julie, you don't take anything for granted, okay? You don't take anything for granted that parents, well, of course parents should know watching 10 hours of video is not good. Well, they may know it, but they're not doing anything about it, or whatever the case may be. And you're recommending, you know what, we're in quality time, phones off, we're walking to the park, and we're going to talk about, talk about whatever you want to talk about, but we're doing it outside. my daughter and I were just talking about that. Sammy's 29. She teaches at Chaparral Elementary. And, she, one of these kids, and she's connected to social media, but she played outside. Now, when I was a kid, that's all we did. I mean, the parents said, this is a different era. 8 a.m, good, we'll see you at 8 p.m. Have fun with your friends.
When the streetlights come on.
100%. Just make sure you make dinner sometime.
Yeah.
So this millennium. Can't do that anymore. So on the website, on their Palomar Family Counseling Service, are there tips, like simple tips to say, folks, here's some things you should do?
We're trying to place a couple of videos or messages on our website. That's where you're going to find them. We try to address here and there. I'm not saying we're complete. We covered every topic, but this is one of the things that Palomar asks the therapist to, from time to time, to post those tips that we're actually practicing on a daily basis on this particular social media. 3 tips: go out, go see people, don't have a screen in your bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, listen, I know we got to end the show in a couple minutes here, but is there one area, and let's say it depends, you can choose a grade level, because I'm sure the different grade levels have different issues. Of course, every kid's an individual, they have different ones. Is there one that pops up about, this is an area that we see more and more that kids are struggling with? Is there one topic, or it's all over the board?
No, I think this notion of digital technology is not under control. Yeah. It's clearly the problem. And you know what? Even worse, the parents, as a disciplinary method, that's their go-to method. I'll take your iPad if you don't behave.
Right. So correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't the state of California suing some of these social media companies now for what they are doing? And maybe it's more than, maybe it's other states as well. Did I read that in the paper about attorneys general around the country? There's empirical evidence that is showing, and then they're based on empirical evidence. You guys know this better than anyone because it's the field you're in. This is what this is doing to the kids, and it's indisputable, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
What do you think is going to happen?
Long battle.
Yeah.
Long battle.
Listen, I'm a journalist by trade, and I was a sports writer a billion years ago, so I'm a big fan of the First Amendment, to say the least, okay? But this isn't a First Amendment issue, okay? This is a health crisis issue. and if anyone doesn't think it's that, then they got another thing coming. Is this issue as exasperated in France, in Canada, in China, or whatever with the kids?
At first, the access is so generalized. You can do that anywhere. Yeah. It's so easy. So it's going to be really hard to combat. Now, culture who have a tendency to be a little more disciplinary have a better chance. In Asia, they're a little more strict than in the United States. It's pretty clear.
Yeah, right. Kristen, any final questions for Benoit?
I have so many thoughts, but I won't. But what can we do to learn more about what you do or support your efforts?
Yeah. So we have a website, www.palomarfamilycounseling.com, that you can visit, and we just revamped it, so it's pretty.
Great!
It's pretty great. That's one. You can call the front desk of Palomar Family Counseling Service, which it's I think it's 760-246 something like that.
Yeah, that's right. They can Google it.
They can Google it.
Exactly. Right. I never had it by heart. Actually, it's 741-2660. And then so that's another way to reach out and say, hey, I have those needs. What can you do for us? And for you, it's, of course, continuing to raise the spotlight on the mental health needs in the community in San Diego, of course.
Well, we'd love to have you and Julie come back on. And I think Kristen will agree with me. We talk about this. We can't talk about what you folks do enough. Maybe the next time we have you on, here's some hints to use. Here's some things that the listeners can walk away with, okay? Mm-hmm. And the main thing is, don't ignore it. Your kid, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, whomever, but in this case, let's say the kids are struggling, deal with it. You can't ignore it, correct?
Yeah, so many undiagnosed people, unmet needs. That's correct.
Exactly. Benoit, just an absolute pleasure chatting with you. We look forward to having a return appearance with you and or Julie or both on this and talk about this very critical component. Kristen, any final comments?
No, thanks so much for your time, and please come back. I could talk about this all day.
I know. It's that important. Thank you so much, Benoit.
Thank you for having us.
You bet. We've been chatting with Benoit Vincent, therapist of the Palomar Family Counseling Service. I'm Drew Schlosberg, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 17th year. Kristen Fogel, as usual, some wonderful questions from my phenomenal co-host. We hope you enjoyed the show.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.